Welcome everyone to the June 1st storage provider meetup. The last call that we had 2 weeks past, that was the special kind of fork call. That one featured several special kind of live events. We even gave away a Gold Shell SC box during that call, and then gave away two more at the end of the weekend that were kind of raffled off. So those three SC boxes have had their winners. So Life Naked was the winner of our live event. That was the Kahoot. I think that was a lot of fun. Got good reception from that one. And then for the Twitter and the Discord giveaway that we did as well, those winners were contacted. The winner for the Twitter one, her name was Wendy, and the winner for the Discord one, his name was Robert. So they've both been contacted. They have SC boxes in the mail on the way out to them. So congratulations to all three of our winners. Well, there were a number of other winners too. I think in the Gold Shell Discord, something like 10,000 SCP were given away in 10 times 1,000 SCP, I think, in their server. So there was just a lot of a lot of generosity going around, and that was awesome to see. So in the couple of weeks since that fork happened, when we last had our call, it had occurred, but the dust was still kind of settling. The mining rewards were very high at the time. They're still pretty good, but the mining hash rate has kind of returned to the channel that it was in before the fork. So kind of up to 1.5 to 2 petahashes per second. That's around where it was before the fork, and that's where it is now. So that's kind of good to see. The important part is the composition of that hash rate is made up by primarily of those kind of Gold Shell and IB Link machines, not S11s. So that's encouraging. As well, in the last couple of weeks, we finally kind of got acknowledgement and got listed on the websites ASIC Miner Value and What to Mine, and I think maybe one or two others. But these are websites that have some kind of significance within the traditional mining space, in the sense at least that they kind of aggregate and track tons of different algorithms and projects and the statistics from them to kind of keep track of what each mining machine would be yielding on which project. And it kind of compiles all that information and does a lot of the work for you that back in the day, people used to have to open up spreadsheets and Excel documents for. But now there's websites for those kinds of things, and we finally have kind of got acknowledgement from them. And there was actually a period where we were like in the top 5 or top 10 or something most profitable coins to mine on ASIC Miner Value. I think we're still toward the top. Like I think we've maybe gone from being 6th to now like 14th or something. So we're still up there in the grand scheme. But it was really cool to see kind of right on the front page. Go us. Other than that, being somehow we always have one of these storage provider calls ends up right at the start of the month. So it is June 1st. The May incentives I don't think have gone out yet, but give us another day and I'm sure that'll have changed. Maybe even by the time you're listening to this if you're catching the recording. However, June represents kind of a change. Not only is the weather getting warmer, but incentives for basics have been sunset. So from this point forward, from the start of June, if you are on only a basic license, then the generous 75 SCP per terabyte per month incentive is going away. This was communicated a couple of weeks ago. It was also in an email that went out to everybody. But that is finally taking effect. So the way to resolve that is to take advantage of the full license upgrade package that we've been rocking. So the final day for that full upgrade license sale is June 15th. So you have another 2 weeks to fully take advantage of that. All you have to do if you are in the situation right now where you're on a basic and you don't have any incentives rate, all you have to do to resolve that is get that full license sale package and apply the license in the console. Should just take a moment. And then at some point, when you have the time over the next 2 weeks or so, then you can get around to doing the actual license upgrade and switching over the software when there's a time that works for you. But all you have to do, like the only immediate action, is applying the license in the console. So other than that, to kind of help along with the number of full license upgrades that have been applied, we've been really happy with the uptake. There have been a large number of people that are kind of getting in on the upgrade sale, which is exactly what we wanted to see. So to help that along, we've released a new installer version. This one has a lot of kind of bug fixes and a couple new features, including a debug flag. So historically, people that were going through the full license upgrade and installing the software, when they would, on occasion, run into an issue, it wasn't always obvious what was happening. Now there's a debug flag that gives you a lot of extra useful information. So that's kind of nice. In addition to that, we also have Supervisor Lite 1.1 rolled out. And the main difference with that one is that this Supervisor Lite 1.1 has a remit ability built in. So this is covering the kind of edge case, I suppose, but it covers the problem, or it's a solution for the situation where somebody has purchased the full license in the console, they have it applied and everything, but for whatever reason they're holding off or can't install the full license software. So in that case, if they still want to get their 1000 SPFB, do the whole remit process, now Supervisor Lite is able to process that for them. So there's a couple of things that I've kind of mentioned that are just kind of addressing edge cases. I think it's worth mentioning anyway, because hopefully somebody who's listening to this kind of recognizes that they're maybe in one of the situations that I just mentioned. Now they've been steered toward what they need to look into. So hopefully that was productive. Other than that, for the last 2 weeks, everybody's kind of been heads down, hard at work. Certainly around the Discord, our partner channel has been popping off. We've grown, added a couple new partners over the last 2 weeks. We had our partner call earlier today, which was productive. I got to sit in on that one, and I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing. There's all sorts of materials, some of the materials that I'm even participating in, some training, resources, documents, stuff like that. That's really encouraging to see. I wish I could share more of that with you guys openly, but hopefully you can understand why I can't get too much into specifics. But if you are at all interested in becoming a partner, or at least exploring that opportunity, please, we have a channel in the Discord set up specifically for partner interest. We have tons of resources on our website, xns.tech, to kind of address, teach, provide resources for a lot of kind of the technology for our model, even the business side of things. So certainly encourage not only participation, but I encourage all of you storage providers, especially if you have SPFB in the network, then you kind of have equity, in a sense, in the network, and you directly benefit in more than one way, and in more than one direct way, in driving storage and adoption toward the network. And I think if all of you took the time to set up a relayer, which I know we've plugged a bunch of times at this point, but I think it's really encouraging, truly, for those who take the time to set up a relayer and kind of see end to end, this is where the data comes from, this is how it's going to the machines, to all the examiners. I think that's a really awesome kind of watershed moment for everybody to see. Other things that have happened over the last couple of weeks. So last week, there was kind of an interesting exchange on that I think maybe started on Twitter and then moved into Discord. But essentially there were two guys that are kind of Twitter and YouTube active that know of our project, heard about it, but they had some interesting and probably, mostly wrong ideas about certain things that happened around the fork. So we invited them into Discord. We kind of discussed some of what was going on with the fork, try to kind of communicate and convey where they went wrong with that. And it ended up actually kind of being productive. So I hopped on a live stream about a week ago that was hosted by the two of them. And there was kind of an interesting hour-and-a-half long kind of discussion or back and forth. So those guys both come from kind of proof of work mining backgrounds. They, in some regards, knew a lot about our project, but in others didn't. So I think we are just kind of one project of several that they keep track of or keep tabs on, which is fine. I can't expect everybody to kind of be undyingly loyal to just one. I certainly understand that that's not how it works. But anyway, I think it was a productive discussion. If you want to maybe see that interview, I think we tweeted it out on our SC Prime Cloud Twitter. So if you go back to tweets from about a week ago, like May 25th, maybe it was, you should be able to find a link. I think it was kind of interesting. It was, yeah, well, I guess we haven't really done any YouTuber kind of interviews or appearances in a while. So it was good to kind of dabble back into that. And it was kind of interesting as well for me who did the interview, I guess, to be doing it with people that were, in some senses anyway, trying to kind of challenge us and ask us tough questions. And I'm pretty happy with how I kind of handled all of them. I think it was certainly a educational experience for all who participated. But yeah, just kind of wanted to bring some attention to that. That we are out there taking on some taking on some people that are trying to give us some trouble sometimes. And in this case, yeah, I'm pretty happy that it turned out productive. To both of their credit, they came in with kind of reasonably open minds and asked for questions that were like reasonably fair anyway. I felt comfortable answering all of them, and gave me the kind of space to be able to explain myself and what we are actually doing. So just kind of wanted to bring some attention to that. Hopefully in the near and kind of medium term future, hoping to do a couple more YouTuber appearances, either myself or Ken. We'll kind of see how that works out. But yeah, I think pretty much all of the interactions that we've done by kind of taking a risk and going out and speaking to some other people's audiences, being fielded questions. I think we're generally pretty happy with how those have gone. And yeah, looking forward to doing more of those. I see Andy here in the chat. He's asking me to bring attention to the SCP Bag Builders competition. Sure, Andy, I'll do that. So we have a couple pretty active community members, some stakeholders, and they kind of teamed together to run something called the SCP Bag Builders competition. So this is kind of an open admission contest where people can kind of put their name on a list, attach a address to that name, and then I think, understand me if I mess something up here, Jordy or Andy, but I believe the point of it is to hop over to Trade Ogre, kind of buy and trade some SCP tokens, or buy and trade to get SCP tokens, and then send them to that address of yours. And whoever can do that with the most coins kind of wins. And there's prizes for the top 10. The prizes are all SPF-A, which are pretty nice tokens to have. Those are those original passive yielding SPF tokens. Those ones do not actually have to be actively held in a storage provider wallet in order to yield. So that's just kind of a nice little bonus from them. But those are generously being given out by some community members and stakeholders that are kind of doing their part to come up with creative ways to help encourage some interaction and activity and things in the network. So hop over to the SCP and SPF tokens channel in our Discord in order to find a link. I think it's somewhere there. It's probably a pinned message, so in the top right. I know nobody looks at pinned messages, but just humor me. I think it's up there. At least Jordy's instructions are. So yeah, just kind of wanted to give some space for that as well. Yeah, it's always kind of... I personally appreciate seeing people coming up with different ways that they can bring some kind of interest or attraction to the project, and not just that, but actually putting out some of their own coins and tokens on the line in order to help achieve that. So thank you, Jordy. Thank you, Andy, as well. I don't know that Andy's necessarily running it, but he's certainly a sponsor in the social sense. So cheers for that. So where I'd like to go next is a segment that I think I introduced maybe 2 calls ago. So that would be like a month ago now. And it was Discord Alpha. So I probably should have covered when I first introduced it what alpha actually means, because I think it's one of those where the people who know what it means find it so, they are so used to the meaning that they kind of forget that it's not very intuitive what it actually means. But anyway, the gist of that segment, so alpha in a kind of information or investing sense, alpha is kind of like, this isn't the Oxford Dictionary definition, but it's kind of just like a good scoop. So it's information that is not necessarily intuitive. It's something that you have to do a bit of digging in order to find, but it's kind of just kind of a good scoop, good information. So that's what I was hoping to bring with the Discord alpha segment. So there's tons of information in our Discord, oftentimes probably too much, maybe an overwhelming amount. And that may be driving some people to not be as track as well as they might like to, and that's perfectly understandable. That's fine. We do have a very active community, and there can be too many messages sometimes that even I have a hard time keeping on top of all the channels. But what I was hoping to do with that segment, and I got good reception, good feedback on, was to take some of the kind of particular threads or some of the particular conversations that we've had over the last couple of weeks that I thought were kind of insightful, touched on some of the various topics that we also kind of touch on in these storage provider meetups, but maybe put them in a different way, and just kind of give some floor space so people who just kind of catch these recordings or tune in once a week and maybe check in a couple times on the Discord but might have missed it, then they are able to kind of access this information too. So what the particular thread that I'm going to be covering was from open discussion earlier today. It actually kind of starts with last night. Somebody came into our server. Well, they didn't join last night, but they started posting last night that they were a basic license holder, and that they felt pretty hesitant to upgrade to a full license. Like they weren't planning on upgrading to a full license, and they felt that you shouldn't either. And then they gave a couple of reasons why that would be. That led to a discussion in the channel that I think was actually fairly productive. To the person's credit, they did seem to come in with good intentions, or at least in good faith, and they were open to others' ideas. So our community, a couple people from our community got in there first and started kind of addressing some of those points. And I think it was actually a pretty productive exchange. I'm not going to go into the specifics of that, but that's important pretext for where I'm going to say next. So that kind of ended off with the guy saying, I'm paraphrasing here, but something like thanks for everybody that kind of shared their feedback and ideas. There's a lot of good information there that I'm going to need to take some time to kind of work through, and then I'll kind of come back, that kind of thing. So now so that was last night. Now we're at this morning where Ken, Faustian AGI, he comes in and to that, or kind of in referencing that discussion that happened, he says, and kind of in discussing people in general that come in maybe a little inflammatorily, but spreading a message, he says, it's easy to dismiss naysayers by ignoring them, but then their message carries equal weight, and you don't get a chance to hone and craft the right messaging. The guy above had made strong arguments, but after a lot of discussion, it became clear he held a big misunderstanding on collateral mechanisms that play a huge role. It's not clear that he's now convinced, but others reading who don't understand how and why the mechanisms work have some good insights and perhaps incentive to dig into the white paper and other sources to understand more. To be honest, and it's been noted in several places, this is all general bear market stuff. We went through this completely back in 2019, so for myself, it's not really that frustrating or whatever. It's just continuing to highlight that we are a different project focused on business products. We're not solving problems that crypto said they wanted to solve previously. There is a constant theme from people who failed to educate themselves that we change the goalposts, when what's really happening is that we've had the same plan from the beginning, and that many have failed to understand it. Later, when they did start to understand it, it felt like the goalposts had moved, and they have, but only for them. Now scrolling down a little bit, this is where I think it kind of continued. So yeah, somebody kind of replied to that thread, and then it kind of continued on. But remember, this is also tied to the earlier discussion. This one, or the one about losing money on storage and making it up on node sales. Cleaning up the basics is a sideshow, one that will be resolved soon enough. Our model includes big concessions that we need to build out hyperscaler global network on par with the big three. It's going to take us a couple years to do that. Our current erasure codes are really efficient and powerful, and for every terabyte we sell, we have about half a terabyte that the corporation needs to pay for. The pricing we're giving partners, where we expect about 80% of our total storage to come from, is below the amount that we pay for onboarding that plus for that one plus half a terabyte. We pay $4 per terabyte, so our blended cost is $6 per terabyte under our current erasure coding, but our current erasure coding is robust. We know that we get 11 nines. I have to make sure I didn't say 9/11s there. The significance, by the way, this is just kind of an aside, if you've heard us saying that before, 11 nines, that's referring to like 99.999, and then there's 11 nines there. That's referring to availability assurances. So if you upload data to a cloud, no cloud in the world, at least ones that actually have laws applied to them, would be willing to guarantee 100% uptime, but there are a number that will make various claims or commitments to get, like up to even 11 nines of uptime and availability. Now, it truly is a whole aside into how traditional cloud can say that they do that when in reality they have only a couple points of failure, whereas a distributed kind of resilient cloud like ours, I think, is a lot more suited to actually delivering that kind of thing. But anyway, getting back into the thread here. We know that we get 11 nines plus out of it, meaning that repairs are not going to be a huge issue for us. So the question of who pays for repairs is not a giant priority because there shouldn't need to be that many. In this case, by the way, a repair is referring to when you upload data to a provider and then the provider goes offline or something. At a point, if you start to lose enough providers that were holding your data, you'll need to start kind of covering for those holes, and you'll need to start patching those holes by uploading data to new providers. But that is an inefficient process because you need to rebuild the original data row, which means pulling from all the remaining providers, rebuilding that row, and then patching the holes again. So it's kind of an inefficient, bandwidth-intensive process. We try to avoid it when possible, but they are kind of inevitable eventually on a network like ours. So then comes the question from our original discussion of how does the corp succeed if it loses money selling storage? And again, the strategy is that we're willing to lose $1 for every terabyte we sell because we know that we are going from 3,000 nodes to 300,000 nodes. And each of those nodes will pay licensing to join our thing, and the dollar amounts that we're forecasting there, including partner discounts and volume discounts, more than make up for the losses in years 1 through 3. At year 4, things get interesting, but by then we'll have done a lot of work on the erasure coding ratio and repairs and deletions, and we'll have other product offerings like compute, block and file, content delivery network. So we'll be making good money on different services, maybe such that we never even need to make money on storage, and the providers themselves get to keep earning top dollar. This is what the guy last night missed. He said that I'm lying that providers make more here, but they really do. $4 per terabyte per month is the top as far as I can see it for any of the 3 relevant clouds. So that's kind of wrapping up the thread there. I thought that touched on a number of good kind of themes. We haven't talked for a while in depth on these calls anyway about kind of erasure coding and repairs. That's kind of a technical, kind of gnarly underside of the network that we don't give a ton of attention to, at least publicly, because it's not very beautiful. They're very math-driven discussions with a lot of technical terms and almost academic in nature, really. So we don't necessarily get into it a ton on these calls, but I think it's good to be able to kind of discuss that again. Because I think, if you really start to see this distributed cloud and understanding that it is kind of inevitable that certain nodes are going to go offline, understand that there are mechanisms in place to kind of account for that, both in a technical sense and economically, because everything has kind of effects in both sides. So I thought that was kind of a good thread to touch on anyway. There's lots going on in our Discord. There's almost I'd say a notable thread pretty much every day that has a good scoop. So I encourage you to spend more time around if you can, but totally understand if you'd rather just play softball or something. Okay, I can start taking questions. Either if you put your hand up in the voice, I can bring you on and we can chat, or in the chat box in the top right for the theater. You're also welcome to submit questions there. All right, Iqbal put his hand up. Are you going to behave for me, Iqbal? You've come up before. You're a good guy. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well.
Good.
Getting some kind of final exams going on, but it's okay.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Are you in
yeah,
school?
I'm always behave well. By the way, I don't know why why I'm getting this kind of anyhow.
Just giving you a hard
Uh,
time.
I know, I know. So I have just kind of basically the same question. For some reason, I don't know, Dix Minor is keep kind of showing offline all the time. I'm seeing it in front of me. He's working, but when I try to check online, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. To be honest with you, like it's keep backing again and again. But I'm just kind of I'm looking just to make it work. That's all. Like that's all I have to ask.
Yeah, that's a fair request. I think we'd be happy for your X miner to work as well. I'm a little hesitant to
Yeah,
get into tech support on these calls because just from the
I
fact that
know. I know.
we have 70 plus
Yeah,
people listening in. What I will say, uh, well, I'll ask you kind of a just a basic question. What is it that's telling you that the X miner is offline? Is that Uptime Robot? Is that Grafana? Is it the port?
Grafana. Yeah, Grafana.
Grafana.
I check
Okay.
Grafana. I check the IP address as well. It's not responding, but at the same time, I see it like it's basically it's running, but I have no other signal to make sure something else going on. So that's kind of the concern so far. It's
So
been kind of quite some
there's
time, but
times
it's
where
okay. I understand.
the
Mm.
local IP doesn't respond.
Yeah. When I try to reach basically the IP address, it doesn't respond. Um, I don't know. If do you think like should I contact the ASP to let them know like I have this kind of gateway and need it to be working all the time, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, so that could be kind of a router level issue where there isn't a IP reservation. So that could just mean that the Xminer, for whatever reason, the router starts giving it a different local IP to use. So that's why it kind of
Hmm.
stops responding on that one because it's
Okay.
using another one, and that has
Okay.
the kind of double added effect of
Okay.
typically when you do a port forward.
Yeah.
Typically, the case is that you'll be forwarding that port to a specific local IP address. So if the Examiner isn't using that address anymore,
Okay. I
then
got
yeah,
you.
then the port stopped working. So
Oh,
I'd look
okay. Okay.
into an IP
Yeah.
reservation, is what it's called. I'd
Uh,
look into that.
okay. Okay. I will dig down and troubleshoot. Try my best to make it work. Beside this, like beside my issue, for the guys basically who bought the X Miner, it's kind of I don't need to do anything regarding the license or
That's right.
any like. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what I want to make sure.
so depending on when you got your Examiner, there's a chance that you got a free kind of included basic license, I think. So that
Hmm.
was kind of we threw that in for people who got Examiners because we want to kind of encourage people getting used
Yeah.
to kind of being able to set up more than one provider,
Hmm.
either on their own network or if they have like a friend's place, a family member's place that they could put another one. You
Okay.
don't have to kind of stop yourself at one. So I think yeah, there was a period where we were giving out free basic licenses with hardware examiners. So if you
Okay.
have that license still, I
Hmm.
think you can use it and you can upgrade it to a full and take advantage of that promo that's going. So
Yeah,
you
I don't mind. That's why I'm asking. Like, kind of whatever I need to get it done to make sure everything is working smoothly for the near future. So that's why I'm kind of
yeah.
I need to
So
make it work, and that's it.
yeah, the X miner. We love X miners, so that's already. Yeah,
Okay.
there's no additional features that the X miner doesn't have
Oh,
that other ones do. So that yeah, the X miner is kind of the fullest a full could get. But yeah, but just if you are interested in maybe exploring to see if you have a basic license, and if you do, then taking advantage of that, then you can start dabbling into some of these license promos and things that's going on there. But that's up to
okay.
you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you so
Thanks.
much, Abhishek. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming up, and good luck with your exams.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah. Cheers. See you.
it. Cheers.
I see in the chat box, is the free license with purchase of Xminer still happening, including the Xminer MT? I don't know that that is still happening, but I am glad that you touched on the Xminer MT, because that's something that not only did I fail to mention that earlier in the call, I think it was brought up in a previous one, maybe touched on, but uh, I just love the name so much that I want to expand on that. So the Xminer MT, that was included in the email that I believe went out to our net the other day. This is an Xminer model that's just kind of the chassis. It's like a driveless Xminer. So it still has all the same software. You just kind of have to plug in your own 3.5-inch hard drives to the trays, to the caddies in the front. So yeah, I think that kind of addresses a need that I remember hearing about from a number of people kind of early 2022 who maybe already had their own hard drives. So could, to an extent, as kind of a DIY made sense because they already had some of their own equipment. But this is a way that if you already have your own drives, then you can still get the full kind of Xminer experience with a native Xminer, but you're providing your own drives. And the Xminer MT name, this revelation only came a couple of days ago when actually somebody spelled it out for me in the server. If you say Xminer MT pretty fast a couple times, you start to realize that it sounds like empty. And that's because it doesn't come with any drives. So clever naming there. Too clever for me. I only got it when someone else pointed it out. But I got a kick out of that. Does the Xminer MT support drives larger than 16 terabytes? That's a good question, Luke the Duke. I believe it does not. I'm trying to remember the reason why. I think it has to do with a file system, like a Linux file system limit. So I think if you did plug in something more than 16 TB, it only formats to 16 TB. I think there are hard drives up to like 20 or even 22 terabytes now, which is kind of crazy to think about. So hopefully that 16 TB limit isn't too much of a barrier for anybody. But yeah, thanks for asking that question.
I've joined this pretty late, so excuse me if you've answered it already.
Yeah, no
There
worries.
was a period where my Exominer was just flying up to the moon, and then suddenly the brakes to come on. Now I'm in it for the long run, so I'm not too bothered about the data, but I just wanted to make sure everything was all good because it was literally like gaining like 100 gigabytes like a week or something. It was crazy like that. And then it just stopped just shy of 1 terabyte. So I was getting ready to celebrate to reaching the first terabyte on my drive, but then it stopped shy and it's been like crawling again. So I just wanted to make sure that everything was all good.
Yeah, I think if you kind of look around a couple people's Grafana's, I think that's pretty typical for the moment. Part of why overall the usage for the net has not been going up a ton is I think when we kind of hit close to 2 petabytes originally, a lot of the data on the network was ultimately kind of uploaded by us. We did all sorts of, late last year, we did all sorts of testing for speeds. That was when we kind of verified that our relayer, as long as you can give it the horsepower, can hit like 10 gigabit uploads, which is pretty awesome. But in the process of doing uploads like that, obviously, if you run 10 gigabit for any period of time, even just a couple hour test, that's a lot of data that you've put on the net. So we're at a point where, yeah, most of the data on the network was kind of our own. What we started to do, well, since then, and around when partners started uploading up as well, we've started to kind of phase out some of that older test data as new data uploaded by partners takes its place. So I'd say overall, it looks like the number probably isn't changing, but that's just because for every 2 new gigs that's going on, there's like 1 or 2 old ones that are being kind of phased out from testing that's been deprecated. So it's kind of a frustrating thing where like there is progress being made, but it isn't changing the number, so it looks frozen. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, cool. One last thing as well. So I upped my provider speed, as in my internet provider speed, in the proviso that like if I had like super fast connection, that like that would benefit me and you guys in the future. Just wondering when, like, how long until realistically you think like maybe like incentives for that could be paid? Because right now, like, I'm not necessarily using that much speed, so it's like I'm kind of paying for something that I don't really need if it's not going to be beneficial to you guys just yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's a fair question. I'd expect probably not in the next couple of months, but I'm hesitant to give any kind of commitment beyond that. I'll say that when we do debut those kinds of advantages for higher network speeds, it probably makes more sense to wait until that is the case to upgrade. At least if part of the reason for upgrading was for this network. So I know since I was doing a lot of uploading because I had a relayer set up, I got on like a 1.5 gig, 1 gig line because one of my ISPs locally was offering fiber. And I really enjoyed having that. That was like the fastest internet I ever had. But I don't have that connection anymore, just because it was fun. But frankly, I didn't need it. It was fun making the relayer fly, but it yeah, I think it probably, if we're at least looking at it from kind of a business justifiable standpoint, it probably makes more sense to just wait until those incentives are in place before doing it. But yeah, if it sounds like you've already upgraded, then I think that would have to kind of be your call. Into depends on what it's costing you. If there are other ways you're able to take advantage of that faster internet, that kind of thing. But I'd expect probably those incentives will maybe not appear for like the next couple months. But once again, I can't really commit to anything beyond that because at this point, things are so dependent on kind of what our needs are and when those needs are, I guess. So if we have partners coming in that have huge demand for storage, and hope you're okay with me kind of profiling you based on your accent that you're probably UK based. So there's certainly a lot of companies
Right.
that are set up there that have demand for internet. So uh, yeah, I think there's certainly a an outcome where 3 months from now we're starting to set up incentives that will pay you a good bit more if you are like on a 1 gig line and are really contributing toward this network being performant because we really appreciate that. So I think we'd like to be able to
Yeah.
do that
I
as soon
mean,
as possible. But yeah, just at this point, we're trying to scale things up in a way that's sustainable. So that does mean that yeah, we're probably not going to commit to that right away.
that's fair enough. Because I mean, I got it with the intention of like being KYC'd up to the moon, like, and having like the like like medical data and things like that,
Yeah,
which
that's still the plan,
because
by the
obviously,
way. Yeah,
yeah.
that is still the plan.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm ready and willing to get signed up to all of that, and yeah. What I was gonna, you was mentioning something about the yeah, that's it. So okay, so fair enough. You can't put a date on when incentives are going to come, but can you at least commit to making a big song and dance about when that is available, so that everyone will know and be prepared?
Yes. Yeah, we'll make sure that we'll make a racket when that time comes, and we'll make sure that everybody is aware that when we are getting to that point, and once we start having those discussions where we're building the infrastructure to, well, we already have some of the infrastructure to measure host speed, but when we start deploying that, when we start deploying that en masse and really kind of vetting the network to that point, yeah, well, we'll be loud about it, and everyone will know. I can't commit to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, cheers. Thanks for all the hard work you guys are doing. Appreciate it a lot. And as I said, I'm committed to see where this goes. So all the best.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Cheers. Okay. I think we heard from a couple of voices today, so that was cool. I think I'll probably start winding down this call. I know we had a number of people that are kind of with us now that weren't at the very start, so I'll rehash a little bit of what we discussed toward the beginning. Kind of did a recap of now that we're 2 weeks post fork, our hash rate level is back to around where it was in the period immediately before the fork. So that's encouraging. But the important part is that the composition of that hash rate, now the miner count on the pools is way higher. So that's good to see. That's more decentralization. And those miners don't have a lot of the issues that the older S11s had around that we've kind of talked at length about before. As well, now that we're in June, the incentives for the basics have been kind of sunset, have been retired. That news was broken a couple weeks ago, and emails gone out to everyone. So this is hopefully not the first time you're hearing about that, but that is now the case. And if you would like to still have your incentives, which is totally understandable, then that full license upgrade promo that we're running until June 15th is your best recourse. So thanks for joining us for this call, everyone. I see the theater chat is still active, so I'm just worried if I hit the end call here, it's going to boot everybody. I don't really know what's going to happen, but thanks for hanging out with me and listening to the call, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks.